iPhone 13 is here, but there's a lot of things that Apple didn't tell you. Here are the top features of the iPhone 13 that you might have missed. By far, the feature that Apple focused on the most is its new camera system. So the iPhone 13 and 13 Pro series now all feature sensor shift technology in the main camera. And that was a feature that was only available on the super expensive and really large 12 Pro Max before. But this will give you way better image qualities across the board. But hardware aside, the biggest feature is cinematic mode. This lets you blur the background of your videos. Apple wasn't very clear with everything this feature does, but now we know it's pretty much like portrait mode for photos, just on video. So when you record a video in cinematic mode, you can adjust the blur after the fact and change what part of the image is blurred. So if the phone blurred the wrong part, you can always fix it later, which is great. On the downside though, and Apple did not tell you this, the feature is only available on 1080p and locked at 30 frames per second. So no 4K recording options. Also, ProRes video was something Apple mentioned is coming to the iPhone 13 Pro series, but that won't be available at launch. It'll come with a software update at some unnamed time later on. And if you want to use this feature in 4K, make sure you buy a 13 Pro with more than 128 gigabytes of storage, because that model is limited to 1080p ProRes only. Kind of a bummer. So the prices on the iPhone 13 models didn't change, but what did change for the better is the storage you're getting for those prices. So the iPhone 13 and 13 mini now start at 128 gigabytes, so you're getting just generally more for your money. Apple has long been notorious for using tiny storage options for their starting configurations, but that seems to be getting at least a little bit better. On the other side, the iPhone 13 Pro and Pro Max now offer a whopping 1 terabyte of storage, up from the previous high of 512. So if you use your phone a ton, it might be the way to go, but keep in mind, Apple's gonna make you pay for it. Apple loves to brag about their processors, and for good reason. They are always at the top of the pack when it comes to performance. And usually the iPhone has the same processor across the board, but this year that isn't the case, and it was easy to miss what the A15 is packing in each phone. So the A15 in the iPhone 13 and 13 mini has a 6-core CPU and a 4-core GPU. The Pro and Pro Max, on the other hand, feature a 5-core GPU. Apple didn't focus on this difference much introducing the phones, but the processors are different, and if that feature is something you care about, just be aware of it. But because they're both the same A15 chip, differences most likely won't be that huge. So the iPhone 13 is not much of a visual change from the previous iPhone 12, but the changes that are there make a real difference. So you can't really tell from the pictures, but the iPhone 13 is slightly thicker and slightly heavier than the previous iPhone. Now that extra chunkiness might sound like a bad thing, but it's not. The bigger size lets the iPhone 13 series have bigger battery life and bigger batteries all across the board. Apple's always straddling the line between thinness and battery life, and some years battery is big and some years it is small. Luckily, it seems they went with a bigger battery this year. The iPhone 13 Pro are getting 1.5 hours more than the previous generation, and the 13 Pro Max is getting about 2.5 hours more battery life than the version that came